Hello, I'm Thal Smith, and this is something I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been sort of holding it off, but I gotta at least say my mind on it. Um, this is gonna be a book discussion on YA, and why I don't care for the genre. And I'm gonna start the discussion in the most odd way possible. That is somewhat confusing, but I'll get it to a point if you'll bear with me. I love action movies. You know, whether it's the Die Hard films or the Terminator films, Commando, The Expendables, James Bond, obviously. I really have loved action films. And I know that they're not generally well written or even well acted. Can't argue with that. But I still love them. And, well, for the most part, why I love them is sort of like why I love watching James Bond movies. And I don't mean love in the sexual way, mind you. Just getting across. Just always like those movies. Anyways, as I was saying, why I love James Bond movies is because James Bond is like the coolest guy ever. I mean, he kicks ass, he always saves his day, defeats the bad guy, and he gets any woman he wants just by doing that. He can snap his fingers and do it. Maybe it's in part because he's this suave sort of British guy or something. I don't know what it is. It's just that, what man wouldn't want to be the cool kick-ass person that can get any woman he wants, right? And be the hero. You know, most men, not all, but most men would like that. So I suppose that's sort of a reason, sort of more of a sort of dream, sort of what you would want to be, but can't possibly be type of thing, than necessarily like a well-written, proper script. And I suppose, though I'm probably 100% wrong, I'm sure I'm like 100 trillion zillion percent wrong, and women will say I'm rude or wrong and evil or men or something and hate on me. But I think women have the same sort of like dream thing when it comes to romance stories, because there's a lot of them and a lot of women read them. Not all, mind you, thank God, but a lot of women do read them. And they love them, even if they're not necessarily well written. And although I don't, again, care for romance genre at all, I, I don't mind it to an extent when it's just a romance. If it's just a romance story in the present day, or maybe it's just a historical romance thing, trying to be Jane Austen, or like one of those weird princess things, I don't mind. I don't care for it. I'm never going to watch it or read it. But I don't mind women uh, with that love romance stories wanting to, not necessarily all women, wanting to read that or watch that kind of stuff. The reason I bring this in is because YA, for the most part, is romance stories. Let's be honest. They are romance stories. And anyone who's been on BookTube admits it. When you watch many of the comments on YA, whether for man or woman, it's generally on the romantical stuff. Not saying that in a bad way or anything, per se. But here's the thing about YA. I don't mind the romances when they're just romances on their own. When they're just present day romances or old school romances. It's when they mess with other genres they shouldn't be messing with. That's when it gets beyond aggravating. It gets into pure anger in my soul. And there's a good reason for that, and I'm getting to it. I unfortunately at one time picked up The Night Circus and read that book. And to be honest, I hated every second of it. And I know many people love that book, but it is really a vulgarly awful thing. I mean, it's it's essentially just like that channel on TV where they just do all that house deco stuff, decorating the house, the stuff where they have that like brother versus brother and house building sort of stuff. Except the Night Circus does it with magic. That's it. Seriously, that's what that book is about, and it completely undermines what real fantasy is. And this is why it gets on my nerves. When they tweedle around with fantasy or with dystopian or sci-fi or horror, as in the case with Twilight, they're undermining, degrading the genre they're fiddling with and know nothing about and don't give a damn because they have some man to be their sex object. Or I shouldn't say even man, really. I mean, this is why I get so upset with this is why I dislike it. It's not the normal romance novels that are just in present day. It's the ones where they thrust into some other thing and then not focus on what the genre is. The best example is Hunger Games. Hunger Games is an awful book. You don't even try to say otherwise. It is completely girlified. And I'm not saying that girls or women can't write real science fiction or fantasy or dystopian or anything like that, but I mean this book is written to girls that don't read sci-fi, that don't know nothing of sci-fi, that will never really care about sci-fi, and just spoon-feed them what they like, aka romances and models. Because The Hunger Games is not on any real theme or subject. It's in no way like a real dystopian. Like, take Fahrenheit 451. This book doesn't have any real romance to it. What you have is a man asking himself, what is life worth? It's on the theme of book burning. And it has thought-provoking discussions on it. In fact, that's where real dystopian comes in. It's not just about scaring you. It's not just about violence. It's about giving you a possibility, a horrific possibility of what tomorrow may bring if we are not careful. So ask yourselves, what is the Hunger Games theme? The first sequence in the book is a girl going out hunting to meet someone she likes. And when she goes on her little game thing, what happens in there? Well, the dictatorial government gives her a trainer, and then they give her some model making person, and then they modelize her, and then go on a modelizing parade. Then they interview her and throw in some romantical nonsense, and then they train her. And here's the thing. This would not happen if it was a really dystopian book. I'll give you an example. And I want you to hear this question, and I want you to answer it properly, honestly. Okay? Did the Nazis prepare did the Nazis prepare the Jews for the concentration camps? Did they prepare them for the killing of their babies, for throwing them in furnaces, for the gas fumes, and all the other horrific shit they went through? Did they prepare them for it? Did they fancy modelize them? Did they have a parade for them in their little country? The answer? No! All that stuff that I just mentioned, that was put in there so girls could get it. So girls could love it. Not because of actual theme, not because of an actual meaning or purpose, or a truly horrific future that could happen if we're not careful. But simply so they could have their little tweedly little romance. And the thing is, it's really degrading to women. Yeah, I'm saying it's degrading to women because it's saying, in a matter of speaking, that this woman could not have lived unless she had some romance with some man and unless she was looking pretty. Yeah, she had to look pretty in front of people to get noticed. She had to get, love interest so she could be saved. That's what saved her. You can try and argue, oh, she can kick ass. Oh, she can do that. No. She's not a strong woman. She's not an independent woman. She has a... This is why it upsets me. Okay? This is when it gets on my nerves. Because I don't mind you having your just straight up romances as a just straight up romance, but when you mess with genres you know nothing about and degrade them. I mean, look at Twilight. How many years do you think it will be before werewolves become these creatures that come out in the night, these giant werewolf things, and they come into your homes and find you, and they grab you and rip your body apart and splatter blood all over your house, and then eat you limb from limb, bone to bones, cracking and cracking and cracking! How long before werewolves become like that again? How long will it be till Dracula actually has some meaning? How long will you keep making wizards just to be your little sex object? I mean, this is what aggravates me. This is what gets on my nerves. Because it's not about imagination. It's not about creativity. Hell, when most of the booktubers even comment on YA or books at all, it's always on the romance or the relationship. It's like they can't read a book that is about anything else. Okay, not necessarily all of them, but a lot of them. And this just gets on my nerves. Fantasy is one word: imagination. Dystopian is the possibilities our future could bring if we're not careful. Horror, okay, horror's I never really cared for because it's mostly just about scaring you. But I'm sure if I really looked into it book-wise, it might be some good content. But still, have you even read Fahrenheit 451? Have you even read 1984? I mean, I haven't read every classic science fiction or fantasy novel, and I'll probably never get through them all because there's so many, because the genre is so vast. But one thing that does make good fantasy and good sci-fi that I know for sure is this: their diversity. The fact that each one is completely different from one another, that the characters or the themes could be on something totally different. Well, they may have some similarities, but they could be totally, vastly different. And I've never seen that in a YA book. Whether it was Twilight or The Hunger Games or The Night Circus, it's always the same thing with you. You're taking a genre you know nothing about or care nothing about and just making it into porn. Or a trashy romance novel. Out of the way. If you left your romances with just being a romance in the contemporary present day or something like that, It didn't fiddle with genres like fantasy and or sci-fi or horror and so on, it wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me.